Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Testing out some new audio and video equipment. But yeah, it's great to be here for another Sunday morning on this Clear Mountain Monastery YouTube and also Facebook channel. Yeah, so this morning we are going to be continuing our discussion of the Asapura Sutta, but really, all right, sounds good. But really just focusing on one very specific aspect of that sutta, which is one particular, what we're calling affirmation, which is the training on mental conduct. And before getting into it, just wanted to invite people to question. So both as I'm speaking or as you're thinking and processing what we're going over, just questioning it all. And if you have any thoughts about the content or about what I've said, we'll have a period of question and answers starting around 10:30 or so. Over the last 2 days, yesterday and earlier this morning, I was invited to listen and attend I guess we would call it a seminar being done through a organization called Bodhi University in England. And yeah, I think it's headed by Stephen Batchelor. He's kind of the main teacher there. And it was entirely lay people, both Stephen Batchelor, he was the main teacher, and all of the people attending were lay people, were non-monastics. But I found it just a fascinating and useful teachings all around. I think the main thing that I came away from it with was this, exactly what we're talking about, is this sense of questioning, the importance of questioning and the importance of wonder. So wonder, does wonder fit into the Buddhist equation? Did the Buddha ever talk about wondering? And so this is just a lot of good food for thought. And so we'll definitely get into that, but just encouraging this active wondering. And as you're thinking of your own questions as I go along and question your own experience, I'm going to pose a question just at the beginning, so anyone who's inclined can think about this as we go along. So that question is based on our topic of mental purification. So the question is, what is mental purification? We'll read this affirmation, but just for yourself, what does this mean when you hear it? I mean, we've got the Pali, parisuddho chittang, parisuddho mano samacharo, being mentioned, but actually what does that mean? So you can think about that as we go along. All right, so I'll read this affirmation as it comes up in the Asapura Sutta. Parisuddho no mano samacharo bhavisati uttano vivato nacha chiddava sambuto cha. Our mental conduct will be pure, clear, open, unbroken, and restrained. We will not exalt ourselves or disparage others on account of that pure mental conduct. Thus, practitioners, should you train yourselves. Our mental conduct will be pure, clear, open, unbroken, and restrained. So, in the context of this discourse, if people have been tuning in, so this is the fourth specific affirmation, the fourth specific training, which the Buddha suggests that we do. The first being training that we will be endowed with a sense of healthy and wholesome and intelligent shame and fear of wrongdoing. The second training being that we will be endowed with skillful bodily conduct. The third being we will be endowed with skillful verbal conduct, that we will purify our verbal conduct. And now this one goes into the realm of the mind. So those first three are really about our actions of body and speech. And I think for many people, myself included, there is a bit of a distinction between the training of body and speech and the training of mind. And it's interesting to look at that. On one level, it's much easier to train our bodies and our speech than it is our habits of mind, and we'll look at why that is. But just to note that seeming ease comparatively. So not saying that say giving up, if you're trying to quit smoking or quit drinking, something like that. That on one level, it's kind of a combination of an act of body and an act of mind. But on the physical level, I can, to some extent, I can say, I'm going to move my hand like this. Right for this next moment, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette. And then the body will more or less, if my nervous system is working, my skeletal, muscular system are all working, then that usually works. I can say, I'm going to move my hand, I'm going to move my head, my body. I'm going to speak like this. I'm not going to speak like that. And we can do that to some extent. But with the mind, it's more complicated. And the reason for that is an insight into kamma or karma, which you can actually think of as action in a sense. But Ajahn has a very interesting way of looking at kamma, saying that there are three aspects of kamma that go along with any particular mind moment. So you've got the aspect of kamma, which is, or one aspect of our present moment experience is that we are creating kamma that we will experience in the future. So that's what most people think about when they think of karma. I do something now and it's going to have an effect in the future. So that's one aspect of our present moment experience, one aspect of karma. The second aspect is what we're doing in this moment that has effects right now. So I have a particular thought like, oh, this is a beautiful thing. To be able to think about the Dhamma, to be able to converse with people, have a conversation about Dhamma, something which I really believe is beautiful. This is a good thing. And that present moment kamma has effects in the present moment. So that's the second aspect of our present moment experience, second aspect of karma. The third aspect, which is crucial, is past actions, the results of past actions that we're receiving in the present moment. So not only are we creating action, we're creating this momentum in the present moment, which we experience in the present moment and on into the future, but we're experiencing the results of past actions in the present moment. So that is why training our mental actions is more difficult than training our speech or our bodies, is because we've got all these habits, all of these, this momentum from the past. We've been thinking in these ruts for decades, and now we're in that rut. The mind experiences being in the trough of that channel that we've created over who knows how many decades or even lifetimes. You can think of it in that way. So yeah, things are difficult. The present moment isn't just a totally blank slate where we've got this continuation from the past, and a lot of our past actions, though many of them hopefully have been wholesome, we also have unwholesome habits of speech and body and mind. And specifically these old habits of speech they come up. And it's good to be able to mentally distinguish both while you're sitting meditation and throughout your daily life, the difference between this old mental habit, these old mental habits that we're experiencing, and what we're doing in the present. And what this affirmation is, our mental conduct will be pure. This is operating on what we can control, which is the present moment action that we're doing, and that action which will lead to results in the future. But what we cannot control is what karma we experience from the past. We cannot really control that, which is why you've got all sorts of weird and seemingly random thoughts that just pop up into your mind. It's like, this is your karmic inheritance from the past. So you are your own heir to your own karma. So in the past, say, I love to watch movies. I love to watch movies, very common thing. And so now there's still that habit. I still will occasionally have a thought saying, oh, it'd be great to watch a movie. And then that thought will just pop up, unprovoked. And so much of our mental life are these unprovoked thoughts. I'd like to have a cigarette. Where did that come from? It's just pop up into our consciousness. And what we're doing with mindfulness and with training is becoming more aware of these unprovoked thoughts as they arrive, and becoming more aware of how we can shape our mental and verbal and physical acts into the future. So let's take the example of sitting meditation, because that's a comparatively more hermeneutic, or more, there are less variables going on when we sit down to meditate in a quiet room than there are, throughout daily life. So we sit down to meditate, and we have these instructions, coming back to the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. And then before long, some random thought will occur. Oh, I left my water bottle in the kitchen. That wasn't a smart thing to do. So that thought just randomly popped up. Our intention was to sit meditation, but all of a sudden we're thinking about our water bottle. So that is karmic inheritance from the past. And now, if we're not mindful, then we start some subconsciously or semi-consciously adding to that. So we're strengthening this past habit in the present moment. So the thought pops up, oh gosh, I really don't want to forget to email my boss, because I've got that thing that's due tomorrow. So that thought pops up. And if we're not mindful, then we can the mind's habit can just continue on with that, like, oh yeah, so actually I should email, but I need to email this other person first, and how should I phrase my speech when the email? It's really important that I phrase things really, really nicely, and I want the boss to like me, but really they're kind of a jerk, and God, what did he say to me last week? That was such a jerky thing to do. What a jerk! And then we just spill on, keep spilling out like that. And that's when we don't have mindfulness. This is just a habit from the past. An old thought came up and we flowed on with it. But if we're mindful, that initial thought can come up because that's from the past. And we can say, oh, actually, no, I don't want to go with that. Remember, I'm Kovilo, you're trying to meditate here. What are you doing? Thinking about your boss. You don't even have a boss. You're a monk. Come on. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Breathing in, breathing out. And we've caught ourselves. And then because we've caught ourselves, then we have diminished the strength of that habit pattern from the past. And in the future, there'll be less inclination to follow that, hopefully. And so that's what we're doing. We're training our present moment karma. it's, yeah, so if all of you haven't heard of this distinction before, this is a good thing to pay attention to, because you can kind of flag your different thoughts as, is this from the past and something which I can just ignore? Or is this something which I want to fuel? Or is this something which I want to starve? This is something that I don't want to fuel. I want to put out this habit pattern. So this is what the Buddha says when he says, our mental conduct will be pure, clear, open, unbroken, and restrained. This is how the Buddha suggests that we can train ourselves. And if we only had karma from the past, then this training wouldn't make any sense. So I think there's a facile understanding of Jain teachings. And again, I don't know much about Jain teachings, but that basically all we have in the present moment is the results of past action. And the only thing that we can do, the way to liberation, is to basically let all of that fall away, and then we'll be liberated. But in the Buddha's teaching of karma, we have this present moment. We can incline. This is one way of thinking about karma, is inclining the mind. And through inclining the mind, we can incline our speech. We can incline our actions of body. And the Buddha said that we can train this not only in the present moment, but this general movement, this general, I want to be more and more someone whose mental conduct is pure, clear, open, unbroken, and restrained. That's beautiful. I want to do that. I would love that for that to happen. But because of this past karma, I can't just make it be the case. So I was having a very interesting conversation yesterday with several other students here about the word vow. So in Chinese Buddhism, the early translators of Buddhist texts, Chinese Buddhist texts, into English really were a fan of this concept of vowing. I will make this vow that I will never do X, Y, Z again, or until I attain enlightenment, I vow to never do X, Y, Z. And if you have mental strength, then yeah, you can do that. You can make very strong vows, but this is a muscle, and many of our mind-based muscles are atrophied because we haven't been training them. So yeah, vowing is not something which all of us are actually qualified to do, or is even like a recommendable thing. You need to be intelligent about how you make your aspirations or determinations or vows on the strong end of things. We were having, in this conversation yesterday, we looked at this spectrum of vow making. So you've got, on the one end of things, you've got the vow, the die-hard, cold turkey, grit my teeth and bear it. No matter what happens, I will do X, or I will never do Y. On the opposite, and then maybe, in the more lenient or more, for people whose capacity for making these determinations aren't so strong, you've got making determinations, or making I think determination is a good word. This is oftentimes in English, the word adhitthana, the eighth of the parami, is translated as just this strong determination. I make a strong determination to not do this. And that is different from a vow. I'm not saying this will happen, which is almost, in a sense, it's almost saying like, I can control the future and it will be like this. That's what vows, the term vow kind of implies on an unconscious level to many people, certainly for myself in a conscious way. Like, to vow something is this, the future is going to be like this, I guarantee, which is from an anicca or impermanent standpoint is not an intelligent thing to do. I can't control the future, really. So I could say, I vow to never smoke a cigarette again, but who knows what's going to happen? This is not likely, but fellow students or some unknown enemy could come in here right now and put a cigarette in my mouth and put a gun to my head and say, Kovilo, you are going to smoke a cigarette. And I probably would. If a gun's to my head, I would smoke a cigarette. So this diehard vow, committing to the future. I know the future and I'm going to make it be like this. That's vowing. Determination is, this is how I want things to be. Further down the vow spectrum, as we can call it, is an aspiration. So I aspire to not smoke. I aspire to not drink. I aspire to read the suttas every day. I aspire to meditate for 2 hours every day, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. I aspire to walk in an upright posture. I aspire to be more inspired, this type of thing. And then one of the people I was talking with yesterday said that even on the even less committal end of the vow spectrum is, wouldn't it be cool if? So that's like the weakest form of a vow. It's like, oh yeah, it would be cool if I could give up smoking, or it would be cool if I could meditate for 5 minutes a day. And that's, it's something, it's better than nothing, but I think we can do better than that. We can do better than, wouldn't it be cool if? That's in the level of kind of a Pollyanna-ish daydream. Like, oh yes, someday maybe it might be kind of nice if I did X, Y, Z. But if we don't have a plan, or if we're not willing to make even the next little mental step, it's not even a full step, but an aspiration. I aspire to give up smoking. I aspire to not lie. I aspire to stop speaking those harsh words to my boss, to my loved one, to my brother. So figure out where you are on this vow spectrum, and in different realms, you'll have different capacities. So you might just not be a foodie. You might not be strongly pulled in by tastes and by thoughts of food, whereas in that realm, it would be easy for you to vow or to strongly determine, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to eat any sugar or drink any sugar for the next, let's give it up for 2 months. And it might be easy for you because you don't have these old habits from the past that pull you in that direction. So making vows for you in that realm might be a good idea. But for somebody else, say in the realm of, say other people might have strength in the speech realm. So I've been practicing mindfulness of speech for 15 years, 20 years. And so I can relatively easily say, I'm going to vow, or I'm going to make this determination to no longer make jokes about my friend's name. So Pali names are funny, can be if you don't know Pali. Even if you do, they've got lots of syllables. And it's easy to want to make a joke about your friend's Pali name. But it's not always the nicest. They might not be in the mood for joking. So, okay, from now on, I'm going to determine I'm going to vow. I'm never going to, make fun of that monk's name again. And again, if somebody put a gun to my head, I might make fun of his name. So I'm not saying I will control the future, but I've got strength in this realm. So I can say that it's more than an aspiration. It's a determination to do this. So know what your strengths are in different training grounds and act accordingly. Do as much as you can. Give up all those things which are bad for you and incline your mind towards doing all these things which are good for you. Our mental conduct will be pure, clear, and open, unbroken, and restrained. So you can relate to that as wouldn't it be cool if I could have mental conduct that was pure, clear, and open, unbroken, and restrained? Or if you're ready to make a little bit more commitment than that, I aspire to have purity of mental conduct, or I determine to have purity of mental conduct, or I vow to have mental purity of conduct. But it's good on the mental realm to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, because although we can make this distinction between past karma, past mental effort, and the present karma that we're creating, it's not always so black and white. And our mindfulness is not always so quick and so bright and so sharp to be able to catch that distinction, to be able to say, oh, here's where I can work. This is my working ground. So holding this lightly and treating yourself with good humor and lots of metta and lots of compassion. So long I've been doing, I haven't been paying attention to my thought patterns. So there's going to be all this garbage that comes up. So yeah, just letting the garbage throw itself away, just fall away, and encouraging the beautiful aspects like this. This is a thought. Our mental conduct, and you can change it to be first person if that's more meaningful. My mental conduct will be pure, clear, and open, unbroken and restrained. That would be beautiful. This is present moment conduct, which has fruit in the present moment. It brightens the mind. When I have this thought, the mind's bright. This is a beautiful thing. I'm conducting myself in line with what the Buddha is suggesting. And the Buddha says it will lead to happiness in the future. Such thoughts will lead to well-being and happiness on into the future. So yeah, maybe just to highlight 3 specific realms, three realms of our mental life, of our mental conduct, which the Buddha said that we can give special attention to. These are the final 3 of the 10 kusala kammapata, the wholesome paths of kamma, of action. And they are refraining from covetousness, covetous thoughts, avijja. And the second of these unwholesome mental pathways, these unwholesome mental tracks which we can give up, is vyapada, ill will. So giving up ill will, I can give up thoughts of anger and aversion. And the third is right view. So I'll incline myself to right view and disincline myself and give up and let unhelpful, foolish thoughts pass away. So those are 3 broad realms of our mental life, which we can incline ourselves towards. So yeah, how do you relate to vows? How do you relate to determinations, aspirations, inclining the mind? Does it even make sense for you to say, my mental conduct would be pure, clear, open, unbroken, and restrained? Or is your mind such that, even saying that much feels like a stretch? Hopefully we can at least get to that wouldn't it be cool if, phase of things. Because really all these teachings are leading us more and more towards mental quiescence, mental calm, tranquility. And that mental tranquility will lead out to our relationships in life. So that's about half an hour of thoughts on mental conduct. I thought I'd go more into those 3 types of mental conduct, but let's see if there are any questions. And if there are, then I'll address those. And if not, then maybe, continue on with what the implications are for these 3 avenues of thinking, 3 realms. Okay, so looking at who's here, it's nice to see people who I know. Okay, so we've got one question from Dave Tutro. So Ajahn Kovilo, how risky is it for our own practice of these purities to spend time with old friends who are much less inspired to recondition body, speech, and mind? Great question. And it really touches on something which the Buddha said was fundamental to his teachings, and that is Kalyanamitta, which is beautiful friendship. Kalyana is beautiful. And we can think of it here as beautiful spiritual friendship in line with the wholesome goals that we're trying to inculcate and bring about in our lives. The opposite of that, opposite of Kalyana Mitta, is Papa Mitta. Mitta is friend, as in Kalyana Mitta. Papa is bad friends, bad friendship. And Papa literally means evil. And of course, the Buddha is not classifying people as evil or beautiful, but is talking more about actions. And you need to look at the habit of your friends. Are they engaged in beautiful actions, or are they engaged in evil or unwholesome actions? And this is something you have to look at. Or what is their general tendency? Because really, why the Buddha gave this so much precedence is because this is something which is, on an outer level, much easier to control than our own thoughts. This is kind of in the realm of the earlier training that I will, my bodily conduct will be pure, clear, and open, unbroken, and restrained. One aspect of our bodily conduct is who we associate with. And so it's a really big thing because you have control of it. You can decide, I'm not going to, nourish this friendship. Or I am going to nourish these other friendships. Because on some level, the voices we hear outside become and are, in a very real sense, the voices that we hear inside. So on one accurate level, what other people say, like all of our friends who say, oh yeah, let's go out to the bar, and if you're trying to give up drinking, or your friend who says, oh yeah, let's who encourages you to kind of talk bad about your other friend, or to gossip about your other friend. Those voices are immediately and in the present moment, those are your own thoughts. And that's to some extent, that's not past karma. It is past karma that you have started up relationships with these people, to some extent. But we have the choice on into the future to not nourish those friendships that we don't want to give steam and to give encouragement and strength to when it comes to our own thoughts. So you have to look at your own situation. What is the nature of that friendship? Is it a friendship that you can cut off? Most friendships or most relationships are. It's harder if it's a boss, or if it's harder if it's a family member that you can't just cut off cold turkey, especially if it's one's parents. But oftentimes friendships or old friendships are, they're not as necessarily endurable as they have to be. You can, stop feeling it, stop calling them, and eventually they'll stop calling you. In many cases, hopefully in most cases. So look at your own situation and see, is this somebody I want to be friends with? And if not, then finding friendly, kind ways to let that go. And look at all the relationships in your past that you have let go of. And hopefully this can be a friendly process, but there are cases where it has to be unfriendly. If you're in an abusive relationship, then it doesn't have to be a friendly breakup. You can just stop calling them, stop answering their phone calls, don't call them back at all. And that's compassion to yourself and compassion to your future self, who will reap the positive benefits of you not associating with that abusive person. Okay, we have a couple thoughts from Yoga with Karina. So I think you lightly just defined purity of mental conduct for me. Aspire to do the things that are good for you and to let go of the things not good for you. Yeah, that's a good summary. Giving up ill will sounds like a good thing, but is there any benefit to the anger that comes up when reading the news about unfairness? Very good question. This touches on righteous indignation. So righteous indignation is a Western concept. It's an English term. It does not exist in Pali, the term righteous indignation. You could make up a Pali term, but it just doesn't appear in the Pali canon. Maybe it's good to suss out what we mean by indignation or anger about the news, to examine what we mean by it when we say it or when we think it, but also to think about its usefulness or its lack of usefulness. So I think there could be a case made that there is utility, there is usefulness to precision of thought, to critically thinking, to being critical, to a critical thought. And I think critical is a good word here because it has a number of connotations. On the unhelpful or maybe un-Buddhist end of things is critical is when you're like overly fixated and mean in your critical and biased judgments of someone else. Like, oh, they're just totally like this, or Trump is just a complete idiot, or Biden is just what a moron, this type of thought, which is just mean. It's beyond critical. That's just mean. When you frame it in that way, when you've got that brow beaten, kind of dark, judgmental aspect, you could also say, oh, actually, Trump, he did that was a foolish thing he did, or he's really deluded there. And you can say it and think it. Or Biden, he was really misinformed in what he just did there, and think these things in a way which are just an accurate assessment of facts, and not have the darkness which comes from the added bias of ill will. So being critical, but not hateful, not spiteful. And indignation. This brings up questions of justice, and I think all of us have to look internally on how we hold this concept of justice, and that will have to be a whole nother Dhamma talk. But there is one reflection that the Buddha says can treat and can relate to thoughts of ill will, and that is, there's a whole probably like 10 or 15 different specific suggestions the Buddha says thoughts which can counter other thoughts of ill will, and those include thoughts of compassion or thoughts of equanimity based on the recollection they are the owners of their karma, heir to their karma, born of their karma, abide supported by their karma. Whatever karma they do, for good or for ill, that will be the heir. So this is the Buddha saying, to some extent, on one level, at least as a method for dissolving ill will, this is a valid thought that they're going to suffer. If Trump was deluded when he said that, if Biden was confused when he made that policy, if he was angry when he said that, if she was, angry or filled with the mind of ill will when she said that, then there'll be consequences to that. And that's also easy to see. yeah, when a politician says something which is obviously deluded, or angry even, the other side invariably will fire up and oftentimes get positive positive feedback and positive fodder, for their own case. So it can backfire. So yeah, you need to look at to what degree you are seeing things accurately. And if you seeing accurately is always praised, but ill will is never praised in a Buddhist context. There's no righteous indignation. There's clarity. There's critical appreciation of actuality, of the facts, but there's no justification for then slathering on top of that our own hate-filled, or even worse, harm-filled thoughts, like are so rampant in social media and even mainstream media, of just, even I wish they would die type thoughts. So hopefully you can at least give that kind of thought framing up. So. We have one thought, a reflection about, after a long period of living in alignment with the precepts, in this past week, I broke one of them and as a result of mental impurity, which has been very painful. This is a consequence that you can see when we start taking on precepts. It's almost, I think a lot of people find it a bit depressing at first. When you start taking on precepts, then you have built a dam and you get to feel the current of your past mental and physical and verbal inclinations. Before you took on precepts, then you didn't know. You just went along with whatever and you got buffeted this way and that. But when you set up this dam, you got this precept, okay, I'm not going to kill, I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to commit sexual misconduct, I'm not going to drink alcohol. Then the dam, we feel that weight, and oftentimes the dam can break, and it's suffering, as this person noted, and that's it's like a trial by fire, and hopefully, you've survived, which is great, and whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger in a sense, especially when we can see what happened, watch the processes that led up to that break. And this is a really important thing, is that we can train, we can get better at the way that we think about not only the present, but also the past and the future. And so this is another affirmation, aspiration, determination, a vow. So I determine, I aspire to really become skilled in how I think about the past and the present and the future. I aspire from now into the future to become skilled. Let this be my life skill, to have finesse and nuance and know the ins and outs of the intelligent way of conceiving of the past, of the present, and the future. And what we're talking about right now in this connection is the past. You broke the precept, we've broken precepts, and now look at it in the past. What lesson can I learn from this? And when you start doing this, you'll see all of the unintelligent and unhelpful ways that you or I have related to the past. This is not a given. This is a skill. The way that we relate to the past is conditioned, and we can change it. So oftentimes, if we haven't been training the way that we think about the past, then our immediate reaction is, oh, I'm such a loser. I hate myself. It was horrible. And this is just self-castigatory unhelpfulness. But we can get better and say, oh, that was dumb. And we can laugh at ourselves for it and say, here's what happened. I had this initial thought that, oh yeah, it wouldn't be that bad if I took a drink of alcohol. You know, my friends invited me to the bar. I haven't been out with them in, a couple months, and what could be too bad? I've been sober for a couple months, and yeah, it's not that big a thing. So that initial thought was what led me to then take the steps to then actually taking that drink, which then just ruined my week, ruined my day. So yeah, those were the steps. And here's what I can do in the future is, when they say, Kovilo, do you want to go out to the bar? I can think, oh no, I've been a monk for, I've been living in monasteries for over 15 years. And I haven't drank. I don't drink anymore. So, or whatever your case, it's easy for me. And fill in the blanks with whatever your particular instance is. But yeah, encourage this, realize this. You can train the way that you think about the past. You can train the way that you think about and perceive the present, and you can train the way you think about the future. So this is are important things to realize, because if you don't acknowledge that, then there'll be no incentive to make those changes. All right, unless we have any last moment questions, then maybe we can sign off. It's been quite nice. I've gotten some new ways of thinking from people's questions and focusing my thoughts around this matter. So yeah, I just encourage all of us to work on our capacity for making vows, making determinations, and to really actively take an interest in retraining the ways that we think about the past and the present and the future. So I'll leave it at that, and wish everybody a very, very